Good morning, everybody. I will start with a very short statement in English, and then I will switch to Arabic language. I'd like first to welcome Secretary Lute for his visit to Egypt. We had very constructive conversation this morning. We discussed the future of the economic relations between Egypt and the U.S. And actually, the visit of Secretary Lute has a very significant and big message of the mutual interests, mutual economic interests for the two countries. برحب بوزير الخزانة الامريكي جاك لو على زيارته لمصر. الزيارة جاية في توقيت يتسق مع الزيارة التي قام بها الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي ولقائه مع الرئيس الامريكي باراك اوباما. الزيارة لها مدلول كبير على أهمية العلاقة والمصالح المشتركة بين الجانبين المصري والامريكي. Secretary Lute.
Thank you, Minister Dimian. Let me first express my deepest sympathies to the families of the Egyptian soldiers who were killed on Friday in the terrorist attack in the Sinai. The United States strongly condemns the attack, and we continue to support the Egyptian government's efforts to counter the threat of terrorism in Egypt. I'd like to thank the Minister for meeting with me today. During our meeting, we had the opportunity to discuss the strong initial steps Egypt has taken to begin advancing its economic reform agenda, the implementation of which will be critical to strengthening the macroeconomic environment. We both agreed that creating jobs and opportunity for all segments of the Egyptian people must be at the center of the government's reform agenda. We discussed Egypt's need for external assistance in order to support the long-term, broad-based, sustainable growth of the Egyptian economy and greater economic security. Mr. Dimian highlighted for me the ambitious reforms that his government has undertaken since June. We welcome these reforms and urge the Egyptian government to continue on this path. The economic reforms include a number of steps to reorient the budget towards improving the lives of the Egyptian people, including boosting spending for social programs, supporting health and education spending, and reducing inefficient spending on subsidies. These steps will help Egypt invest in its people so that all Egyptians can share in the country's growth while putting Egypt's budget and debt trajectory on a more sustainable path. Minister Dimian noted that these reforms are just one part of a multi-year reform process, and I look forward to the upcoming publication of Egypt's detailed medium-term economic plan and to Egypt continuing this positive momentum over the coming years. We welcome Egypt's plans to host an economic summit in February 2015. This summit will be an important opportunity for Egypt to showcase the additional economic reforms that Egypt will undertake in the next few months and highlight details of its planned agenda to private investors. This in turn should help attract much needed private investment in Egypt, creating greater employment opportunities for Egyptians. We discussed the rule of law and how creating an open political environment in which individual rights are fully respected would further bolster Egypt's ability to attract international investment. Minister Dimian and I discussed ways in which the United States might support Egypt's efforts to reform and strengthen its economy, as well as directly support the Egyptian people during Egypt's many transitions. Staff from the Treasury Department visited Cairo in September to discuss opportunities to help the ministry manage its resources and more efficiently and improve budget operations. We plan to deploy assistance in this area soon. In addition, the United States is moving forward with around $200 million in annual programming aimed at improving the lives of the Egyptian people, and we will continue to look for ways in which U.S. assistance can help support Egypt's efforts to implement sustainable economic reforms. Finally, the U.S. government is working closely with the U.S. private sector to showcase the steps Egypt is taking to improve the investment environment, paving the way for private sector opportunities in Egypt. In November, the U.S. government will lead a mission of the United States Chamber of Commerce to Egypt These businesses are closely following Egypt's progress on economic reforms and are noting with interest the steps taken toward sustainable growth. We also discussed plans for the International Monetary Fund to continue an assessment of the Egyptian economy later this year. Discussions with the IMF can help Egypt to further refine its economic reform agenda and help to further build confidence ahead of the February Investment Summit. I'm also pleased that the multilateral development banks, with the support of the United States, have already provided assistance to Egypt. This includes the World Bank, a strong and reliable development partner delivering both public and private sector support, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which continues to grow its private sector investments in Egypt, and the African Development Bank, which will significantly increase its lending to Egypt next year. This assistance plays a critical role in helping Egypt to invest in infrastructure, strengthen the social safety net, and expand access to financial services for low-income households, help support small businesses, which are the engines of sustainable growth, and promote private sector investment in Egypt. Again, I want to thank Minister Dimian for his hospitality and congratulate him on the progress his government has made so far on critical economic reforms. I look forward to continuing our dialogue and enhancing the economic partnership between our two countries to help build an Egypt that can grow and support jobs for all Egyptians in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Let's take a few questions from the floor. نقدر نفتح باب الأسئلة من تفضل.
Yes, sir. Abdul Latif from Bloomberg in Cairo. Mr. Minister Hani Adri, we wanted to know when Egypt will issue international bonds and how much. Would you please confirm some information in the Egyptian media that Egypt received $1 billion US from Kuwait? Do you expect more aid to Egypt before the end of this year? Thank you.
Okay, as I mentioned, that Egypt is open to all the channels and all the venues to fund its financing effort. And among these channels is to access the international markets to tap on the resources there. This is the most regular and normal channel to finance the deficit from non-domestic resources. I expect that we'll be visiting the international markets during the course of the first quarter of 2015. The magnitude and the tenor and the other details, we will have to work on them, and we will choose according to our to the best of what the market can offer to us. I cannot give any confirmation at this moment with regard to the Kuwaiti $1 billion that was stated on the press this morning. But let me tell you, and as I confirmed in several occasions, that when we drafted the 2014-15 budget, it was not relying on assistance from abroad, but primarily on reforms with structural nature. The only amount that we have budgeted is almost $1 billion for previous commitments that were made by our friends in the Gulf. ممكن نقفل الموبايلات من فضلكم؟
I think that in our conversations we acknowledge that we have common security interests and shared interests in this area. What we've made clear from the United States is that it's going to take a sustained effort over a long period of time. We're dealing with a different form of financing of activities than we've seen in other areas. So part of the effort is to deal with the normal international banking kinds of issues. Part of the problem with the Islamic State is that the funds are not going through the conventional banking system, and we need to work with all of our partners in the region to close down the formal and informal sources of support. We are making progress, but it's going to be a long and sustained effort, and we're in the United States determined to work with all of our allies in the region not just on a military basis, but on a financial basis to make sure that the resources do not continue to flow in and that they do not become a permanent source of funding both the violence and the instability that the Islamic State is causing.
سد الفجوة التمويلية اللي بتواجه الاقتصاد المصري هتيجي من أكثر من مصدر. المصدر الرئيسي اللي بنعمل عليه هو إعادة معدلات النمو مرة أخرى للمعدلات الطبيعية وقدرة الاقتصاد أن ينمو بها. لأن معنى أن تعود بالاقتصاد المصري إلى معدلات النمو التي يمكن بها أن ينمو بها، هذا يعني أنك تحقق الفوائض التي تستخدم في تمويل هذه الفجوة. ده الهم الأول للحكومة، أن تعيد الاقتصاد المصري ينمو بنفس المقدار أو بالمقدار الذي يستطيع أن ينمو به. في الوقت الحالي الاقتصاد المصري سجل نموا في العام المالي 13-14 ب 2.1% تقريبا أو 2.2%. هذا لا يكفي لا لخلق فرص العمل المطلوبة، ولا يكفي أيضا لتحقيق الفوائد التي تسد هذه الفجوة. الفجوة يتم سدها بالنمو، فده تحقيق ذاتي، أو بالتدفقات النقدية اللي بتأتي من ميزان الرأسمالي في ميزان المدفوعات، سواء في صورة استثمارات بتيجي في أسواق المال أو استثمارات ممكن تأتي إلى سوق الأوراق المالية الحكومية. في تباطؤ في مسألة تدفقات في سوق الأوراق المالية الحكومية، ده صحيح، لكن هناك استثمارات جيدة موجودة في أسواق المال بتأتي من الخارج، نظرا للربحية اللي بيحققها السوق المحلي، لجاذبيته إلى آخره. ستبقى هناك فجوة من الضروري أن نتعامل معها بطريقة اصطناعية إذا جاز التعبير، وهذا هو اللجوء إلى مصادر التمويل الخارجية بما فيها الأسواق العالمية أو على رأسها الأسواق العالمية، وده اللي بنسعى ليه. زي ما ذكرت ان انا انتظر ان في خلال الربع الاول ممكن نكون بنزور الاسواق العالميه لسند يتراوح من 1 ل 1.5 مليار دولار كما اعلن في السابق، لكن سنختار مدته وباقي شروطه في الوقت المناسب. البنك المركزي بيقوم بإدارة التدفقات النقدية بشكل جيد، ولديه القدرة على تخطي مسألة انتهاء أمد السندات القطرية.
Look, I think the purpose of this visit is, as I stated in my opening remarks, to work with between our two governments to advance the Egyptian economy. We have a long-standing relationship where the importance of the well-being of the Egyptian economy is an important U.S. interest. And I think as I went through in detail, there are a number of items that need to be addressed. And this was a visit to work together to see a path to making continued progress, strengthening a relationship that will lead to economic opportunity for the Egyptian people, that will lead to the ability for small and medium-sized enterprises to thrive, that will lead to an economy that supports the kind of stability that's so important for an economy looking to the middle term and the long term. And I think we had a good discussion on many of these issues. Gina, Ismail?
خليني استكمل على مقاله وزير الخزانة الامريكي، ويعني اعتقد ان اهم رسالة في هذه الزيارة هو بدء توطيد العلاقات الاقتصادية المصرية الامريكية على اسس من المصالح المشتركة اللي بنحترمها من قبل الجانبين. المصلحة المشتركة في المقام الأول بتأتي في الاستثمارات، وتأتي في التبادل التجاري، وتأتي في تحقيق النفع للشعوب. هذا هو المقام الأول من العلاقات الاقتصادية بين الدول. هناك موضوعات عديدة طرحناها لدعم الولايات المتحدة لمصر في صورة بعث الرسائل الصحيحة للمستثمرين الامريكيين لتعود التدفقات الاستثماريه مره اخرى سواء اذا كانت ماليه او غير ماليه الى الاقتصاد المصري، لانها واحده من منابع اولا خلق فرص العمل وتحقيق النمو المطلوب، هذا اولا، وثانيا لانها واحده من روافد سد الفجوه التمويليه التي تواجه الاقتصاد المصري. مصر واضحه جدا والحكومه واضحه جدا في علاقتها مع صندوق النقد، ولا توجد مفاجآت او اي مشاورات غير معلنه. منذ البدايه ذكرنا ان العلاقه بين مصر والصندوق تنحصر في 5 مسارات. مسار اول ان مصر دوله من الدول الحاكمه للصندوق وهي دوله مؤسس للمؤسسه الدوليه. المسار الثاني هو أن مصر لديها مقعد في مجلس إدارة الصندوق وتدير العمل اليومي للمؤسسة. الرافد الثالث أو الوجهة الثالثة أن مصر من حقها كدولة عضو في الصندوق أن تستفيد من كافة الموارد الموجودة هناك سواء كانت مالية أو كانت تقنية، ومصر من الدول الناشطة جدا في الاستفادة من المعاونات الفنية التي تتيحها مختلف إدارات صندوق النقد الدولي. عنصر رابع وهو أن مصر كدولة عضو عليها التزام شأنها شأن كافة الدول الأعضاء في أن تستقبل بعثة سنوية لمراجعة والاطمئنان على سلامة الاقتصاد المصري، وده دور من أدوار صندوق النقد الدولي هو المراجعة والاطمئنان إلى سلامة الاقتصادات التي تقوم بها دول العالم سواء على المستوى الفردي أو على مستوى إقليمي أو على مستوى العالم كله. والمستوى الأخير في العلاقة هو أن مصر من حقها أن تطلب تمويل من خلال برامج مع صندوق النقد الدولي، وأؤكد أن نحن نعلن بمنتهى الصراحة وبمنتهى الشفافية ما تنتوي الحكومة أن تقوم به من إجراءات، ومسألة اللجوء إلى صندوق النقد الدولي في برنامج غير مطروح الآن، وهو لا ينفي أننا منفتحين على كافة القنوات التي يمكن أن تساعدنا، وسنختار منها ما نشاء أو ما نراه مناسبا في الوقت المناسب.
We have had conversations over a long period of time about a bond issue that rolls over in about a year's time. I think that our goal is to work together for there to be a path where Egypt is making the kind of progress that it can meet its needs. Whether or not there's either the need for a role for additional U.S. support will depend on many circumstances, both Egypt's economic conditions and progress made in other important areas domestically. I think that, just to comment a bit more on the question we were just discussing about the IMF. The IMF is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. The goal that Egypt needs to have in terms of its economy is to continue on the path of the kind of reforms that the government has already undertaken on its own. Very difficult energy reforms, very difficult revenue measures. It's not a job completed, but it's a very significant step in the right direction. I think that one of the things that we've discussed both in Washington and today here in Cairo is how to continue making progress on that front so that Egypt has an expanding economic base and ultimately less and less need for external support. So I think all these questions have to be viewed in a context. And the challenge, Egypt faces many challenges, both economic and in terms of security. It has steps that it needs to take that we've discussed in terms of some internal issues where without progress it's difficult for us to get more deeply involved. But our goal is to have a normal relationship between the United States and Egypt where the kinds of support are not just official, but as the minister was saying, private as well. Private investors look for that kind of progress. I think that the government is getting, and the minister is getting credit for the steps taken on the economic front. And we look forward to continuing progress so that we can see more investment in a future of an Egypt that provides for the economic opportunities for all of its people. That's the one that expires, correct? There are many areas we discussed where U.S. support, both technical support is very important, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks, ongoing economic support. We had a delegation coming here even before February, a U.S. government delegation that will be accompanying our Chamber of Commerce on a visit here to Egypt. And we're still working on what the representation at the February conference will be. But the fact that we have a delegation coming in November, I think, on top of the visit that I made here, shows a deep desire to have the kind of relations between our two economies that are in the interests of both of our peoples. I think that the conversation that we had was about how to develop both the ongoing dialogue between our countries to provide for more direct contact, more direct involvement, but also how to build a foundation within Egypt for there to be progress made. I think it's premature to discuss new matters in the area of the free trade zones, but I think it was very much the thrust of our conversation that it is the goal that we share for there to be more commerce between our countries and an environment which is inviting to both trade relations and investment opportunities. So I think that we will continue this conversation as we go forward.
مسألة إدارة شأن الاقتصاد المصري يخص الشأن الوطني. مصر بتسير على مسارين في غاية الأهمية. مسار إصلاح سياسات وهو ما قمنا به أو بدأنا به في إصلاح من دعم الطاقة، إصلاحات على مسار الضرائب، حتى إصلاحات في السيطرة على تفاقم مشكلة الأجور التي مر بها الاقتصاد المصري خلال السنوات الثلاث الماضية. على مستوى البرامج والمشروعات لابد أن ندفع بمشروعات لتحقيق النمو والتنمية. التنمية عابرة الأجيال، التنمية ذات البعد الاقتصادي والكفاءة الاقتصادية العالية، التنمية التي تخدم أجيال قادمة لاستقرار واستمرار الاقتصاد المصري في تحقيق النمو المطلوب وتحقيق طموحات تلك الأجيال. فبنسير على مسارين، مسار إصلاحي ده كله سياسات، ومسار برامجي لدفع عجلة النشاط الاقتصادي وأيضا تحقيق ما يسمى بالنمو الشامل مثل ما يمليه الدستور المصري من زيادة الإنفاق على الصحة والتعليم ومضاعفة هذه المبالغ لتصل إلى 10% من الناتج القومي مع حلول عام 16-17. فلابد أن نسير من المسارين. الجانب الأمريكي هو شريك قوي جدا للاقتصاد المصري. الدعم يأتي على عدة مسارات سواء داخل المنظمات الدولية، يأتي من خلال تشجيع الاستثمارات. هذه الزيارة في حد ذاتها الجانب المصري والحكومة المصرية تنظر إليها بعين الاعتبار الشديد وبتقدير للإدارة الأمريكية. وحقيقة الأمر أن ما لمسته في وزير الخزانة الأمريكي من مصارحة ومكاشفة يعني جيدة للغاية جعلت بداية علاقة طيبة جدا بين الجانبين أتطلع إلى استمرارها وإلى استثمارها للمقام الأفضل لصالح الطرفين.